Welcome to my channel. I'm finally back. Woo! Okay, now I am officially married. If you don't know, my name is Asia. My last name is in progress right now because we are switching over all of our documents. But I just got married last month, almost exactly a month and 2 days. And so I figured I would go ahead and share some wisdom, you know, jump back into YouTube, try to do something that I actually kind of feel like I can rant about. I think that's what I've been struggling with. I really like to do ranting videos because then I feel like I am doing shit, you know, my brain, my ADHD is going, you know, and then I don't get ADD. I don't know, I feel like everybody has problems because we probably consume too much sugar as children, but here we are. Anyway, so welcome to my channel. That's me, this little rant, that is me. Okay, I'm back. I'm back with my wine and it's in my Mrs. glass because who are you as a newlywed if you're not obnoxious? And from the title of the video, you know what this is gonna be about. But at the same time, I think I'm gonna do some makeup because I just haven't been wearing a lot of makeup recently. And I wanna get back into the, you know, the groove of doing makeup videos and all that good stuff. I gotta find all my makeup supplies because it's still somewhat packed up from the wedding. All right, cool. And I'll just list everything that I used in the description box. I'm not gonna, you know, show you every single item. So we got engaged in 2019. And then when we got engaged, I wasn't really like too eager to start wedding planning because I don't know. So I wasn't super duper eager to start wedding planning. I just wasn't like, I don't know. My brain wasn't together. We didn't know what we wanted to do. At first we were gonna just go ahead and elope somewhere like on a mountain in California. And then we just decided to go ahead and plan the big old shebang wedding. So 2020 happened right when we finally started getting our thoughts together. So when we started planning, actually starting to plan the wedding, I think this was the first thing that I didn't expect when I started to plan the wedding, is just the self-doubt on the entire process. So when you start planning the wedding, things just get a lot more serious. Like your family just like has this crazy shift and they just all of a sudden start taking your significant other seriously. For those of you who don't know, Akil and I, we were in a relationship long term. Like we were together, we moved to California together, and we were in this relationship for 6 years. So it wasn't like when we got engaged, it was something that should have been surprising to our family. But I honestly think it was surprising to most of them. So all of a sudden, like your family acts like this person came out of freaking nowhere. And they have to get to know this person now. It's like you had 6 years to get to know him. So it's kind of like too late to randomly have opinions and like, I don't know. It was kind of a weird shift. Like our family members just all of a sudden took the other person very, very seriously. Like they all of a sudden had so much to say when we were together for 6 years and it was just crickets. First thing that happened when I got engaged is there was a lot of self-doubt because we were kind of like in an extreme honeymoon phase when we did get engaged. You know, you want to just make sure you think about things. And then plus it was during a pandemic that we were actually like starting to plan our wedding, and you know, we had all this time to sit around and think. So there was a lot of self-doubt on like if I was able to make good decisions. I'm 27 now. But when we started this entire like engagement process and stuff like that, I was only 25. And I don't know if it's just because of how the world, you know, is flowing nowadays. People are a lot more like relaxed in their relationships. People they experience a lot more people. And Akil and I met when we were 21. Yeah, basically 2021. And so I really took a lot of time, definitely during that first year when I wasn't planning the wedding, to really think about it. Like, is this what I want to do? Blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, after all my Googling, I did do a lot of like self-reflection and, you know, thinking, is this truly the best decision for me? Sorry, this is really hard to like, I don't know how the heck Bailey Sarian tells full murder mysteries while doing her makeup. I don't understand. I'm just trying to have a basic conversation with myself and it's really, really difficult. These are my tips on things you should or shouldn't do or you should be aware of. So the first thing is to plan your wedding immediately. Do not do what I did and sit around for a year. Akil and I have actually talked about it multiple times. That was one of the biggest fails that we did when we were getting married, because we should have just like gone for it. I think that when you first get engaged, you're like really high off of all the excitement and, you know, oh my God, he or she said yes, and or oh my God, they asked me to marry them. This is just such a privilege and blah blah blah. And you're so high off of that energy that like if you allow the outside forces that are going to come into play, there's gonna be so many opinions and you're just gonna be like, what the fuck? I would 100% just like crank it out. Like as soon as you get married, just go ahead and start planning, because the planning process is stressful enough. Getting married is stressful enough. The last thing you need is additional stressors. Do not take it easy. Do not be like me and be super duper relaxed about the whole situation. I really do look like an egg. I promise this is gonna all magically work out together, guys. When you actually first get engaged, and this is something that me and Akil sadly didn't have the opportunity to do right away. Another weird thing about my engagement personally, it was during the pandemic that we actually started to plan our wedding, right? Once I started to plan the wedding, I got a job doing traveling COVID testing. And so every like few days I was flying to a different state. So I was in, let's say, New York on Monday, then I would fly to Texas or Austin, Texas on Thursday. And then I was gone until that following Friday, blah, blah, blah. So we kind of missed this step. And it's something that I 100% wish that we had done a little bit earlier, because we did it later, like right before we got married. And when we did it, I was like, well, this would have been helpful 17,000 weeks ago, but okay. So the tip is to communicate about your fears, hopes, and excitement before your big day. Right around the time that you get engaged, this is what I would recommend doing this. If anyone actually says that they did not feel stressed when they got engaged, I will be really impressed with them. So I would 100% recommend that you talk about just your overall goals when you get married, and your fears about getting married, and the longevity of your marriage, and what you guys think that you should do to make it last. It feels better. Even if you say something that kind of hurts the other person's feelings, or like says something that's not technically like politically correct, it just feels better. And I also think that, you know, when you are a child of separation or divorce or whatever it may be, or maybe you even had a single parent, talking through those like generational issues, it's helpful. Oh, also adding on to this whole spiel, I wrote this down specifically. I don't know about everyone else, right? If you're married already, let me know if I'm just a weirdo. I'm kind of like socially introverted, so I don't know if this is normal or not. But personally, I thought that engagement and getting married, which was actually a very lonely process. I definitely had a lot of friends that like reached out to me, and my sister was always there, my mom was always there, and my dad was always there, my stepmom was always there, and you know, there were so many people always there, the family members. It just felt like a really lonely process. You know, normally when you go through big life changes, you have a lot of support. So like graduation from high school, there was so much stinking support. But for weddings and getting married, especially because I was the first person in my friend group to get married, it just felt like an extremely lonely process. So whenever I had something that was going wrong in the wedding process or planning process, or I was stressed out about something, it kind of felt like I had to keep those things to myself, because I should have felt blessed for being in this position in the first place. Where is my brush? What the heck? Where'd you go? Oh, I found it. So it kind of felt like a really like lonely experience. So that's why I also think that, you know, talking to your spouse and, you know, getting on the same page is so important, because if you are not, Akil and I kind of had to deal with all this stress and, you know, insecurity and stuff like that. We kind of had to deal with it by ourselves, but this was the dynamic for me, and I feel like it's a lot dynamic for a lot of people. It's just not really something that, I don't think it's something that's acceptable to complain about, because so many people are like, oh, well, at least you're not single anymore, or well, at least he proposed to you, and blah 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 blah. And it's like, well, actually, just because I'm experiencing something that's positive doesn't mean that there aren't negatives around it. And so yeah, so here I am complaining about it openly, and I'm sure someone's gonna be like, she's a bitch. We did premarital counseling. So we did a religious version of premarital counseling. It was a really good experience just because it helped us, it brought up a lot of stuff. okay? It just brought up a lot of stuff. You know, things that are very like important topics that you might not really talk about that much, even like later in your relationship. And like, how many kids do you guys want to have? How important is communication to your relationship, and how do you like to communicate even? Those were all very, very, very important topics that we covered during couples counseling. So things are bound to happen. It just gives you tools, you know, to face those issues when they do arise. When I was watching these videos, nobody ever talked about couples counseling. Nobody ever talked about the doubt that you feel when you actually get engaged. Everybody always tries to make it sound like rainbows and sunshine, but even though it is rainbows and sunshine and it's really, really exciting and you feel blessed to have this opportunity, it's stressful. It's a life-changing experience. And if I really want people to comment down below and tell me if they didn't think that it was both beautiful and extremely stressful at the same time, because that's exactly how I looked at it. So yeah, so premarital counseling kind of helps like refocus your brain on like why you're doing what you're doing. In my opinion, it made me feel a little bit closer to Akil, because I felt like we didn't fail at couples counseling. Like sometimes he brought up subjects about like kids and we were already on the same page. So it was pretty cool. Okay, now that I look fully like an egg, let's go ahead and add some colors. Okay, and then my next tip is going to be to go ahead and focus on the actual union that you're creating and less on the wedding event itself. I know that's super duper hard, definitely if you're doing a lot of DIY activities, but I think it's so stinking important, because really the wedding goes by so fast. So many things are gonna happen on your wedding day. Like, it's so stressful. And then my photographers and stuff, they were super duper chill, but we were behind schedule and I was freaking out. And I was like, oh, yeah, we're behind schedule. And they're like, guys, all weddings are behind schedule, no worries. And I was like, everything goes so fast and it can be so stressful. But you know, at the end of the day, after a few hours, after this day is completely over, it's over. You know, you're just like, you're with your spouse. You really want to make sure that you have a nice, strong foundation, obviously, and that you are, you know, maintaining that thought process while you're getting married. And I want to make sure I, you know, tell this to other people, because I just feel like there's so many things, especially for like the women, that don't truly matter. I know it's rude to say, but it doesn't truly matter. Like, there's 1,000 parties that women have to partake in. There's 1,000 thousands of dollars that you spend, right? All to get married. But if you really think about it, the wedding planning process takes like a year to a year and a half. In a year to a year and a half, you can completely destroy your relationship. If we're gonna be honest, you can destroy your relationship in the matter of a year. You could be the perfect couple, and I've actually met couples like this who planned on getting married and then they just never made it, because the wedding planning process, it's stressful. You're spending hella money, so you're like, why am I spending all this money on somebody who doesn't even like me? You know, those thoughts can cross your mind if you don't focus on the longevity and life and love of your relationship. It's really, really easy. And that's something that I don't think that many people admit, because it kind of sounds like shitty, and it sounds like, oh, well, you shouldn't get married if you have any doubt. The lady, when we went to go get our certificate, she was such a sweet lady, and she had actually been married, I'm gonna say like 15 years or something like that. And we were just having conversations with her because, you know, after the pandemic, everybody just likes to have random conversations with people. And she actually asked, and she's like, so have you guys actually canceled the wedding at all? And me and Akil just stared at her like, what? No. Like, why would we cancel the wedding? And she laughed and she's like, actually, most people, before they make it to the altar, they cancel their wedding at least once. Focus on your marriage, focus on the love that is behind the marriage. Okay, and then the next thing is eloping will always be an idea that draws you in. Like, the entire time Akil and I were planning the wedding, right? I remember there were multiple times during the planning process. There were multiple times during the planning process where like we would stop and we would think about it and we're like, oh my God, this is so stinking stressful. Like, we should just have eloped. I have no idea why we're doing this, because there's so many stressors, there's so many things going on. If I'm gonna be 100% honest, on my wedding day, 90% of the day I was taking pictures. Like, it was insane. My photography group actually, so I'm gonna post my entire wedding video after this, but my freaking photography team, they were crazy. They were doing like little flips in the aisles. It was insane. They were acrobats. So I appreciate them and all the effort that they put in, you know, but there's some type of like circus or performance element to actually having a wedding day. So I always will say that eloping is awesome. You know, during the wedding planning process, that is always something that is going to linger. So you really have to decide what you want, honestly. Some people really want, I think they give two different auras. Like eloping gives you that one-on-one personal experience, and then having an actual wedding, you get the love and the happiness and the support of your family members. This is it. Let the drama begin. Okay, step 1, keep your family members out of your business. Okay, and I'm so serious. I'm so serious. So like I said at the beginning of the video, when you actually get engaged, right? When you get engaged, your family all of a sudden is gonna act like this person never existed. Everything that they knew about them previously, about their character, about how kind they are, doesn't exist. And sometimes family members don't really get the opportunity to meet your spouse. I can say for me, for instance, Akil and I, we moved from Ohio to California pretty early on in our relationship. So I did not have that much exposure to his family. So when we started the wedding planning process, those doors got open. There was no more facade. The floodgates were open, and we had no choice because we were gonna become, you know, new family members. And they are going to respond to your newfound engagement based on their own personal experiences. Like, one of the best things to remember during this entire thing is to not take anything personally. Like, if your parents all of a sudden hate your spouse, it's not truly your spouse's fault. Always. Sometimes they might have hated your spouse before. That you kind of have to take, even like the people who you truly care about, you have to take their opinions with a grain of salt. Like, okay, so I'll even use this as an example. It's a really, I think this is the sweetest example I could use. So my dad, when I was younger, I don't know if he knew, he should know I know this. He used to have like a list of goals for himself during his life, like hung in his office. And one of his lists of goals was to walk me down the aisle. Like I can remember this vividly being on his wall in his office. So during the wedding planning process, he was actually extremely supportive. Like, I think for him personally, it was a highly emotional experience because he was finally getting to, you know, check off one of the things on his list. I'm sorry. I gotta cry. Anyway, so I think for him, you know, the way that he responded to this emotional stimulus was to just be supportive. He used to ask me a lot of questions about wedding planning process and how I was feeling and blah, blah, blah. And I can say for sure that that was extremely helpful, but you know, not everyone's emotional response to something as extreme as a wedding is going to be positive. It's the honest to God truth, because people go through their own shit. But yeah, so you don't want to tell your family like, oh, well, let's say Jonathan wasn't helping me with the save the dates. He really pissed me off yesterday. You don't want to tell them all those things because you're gonna forgive Jonathan for not helping with the save the dates. Your mother might not forgive Jonathan, okay? Your mother might hate Jonathan for the rest of his life. Now that I put on my eyeshadow and it's time for eyelashes and lips, you know, now that I'm done with the stressful stuff, we're gonna talk about the most stressful things that have occurred. The most important thing to keep in mind when you are planning your wedding is that friends and family, they are not going to act in a very predictable way. Like, you might think, oh, my grandma loves Billy Bob, okay? My grandma loves Billy Bob. She's gonna be the light of my life when I'm getting married. You know, she's gonna be great. She's gonna be super duper supportive. Well, sweetie, sorry to disappoint you, but your grandma, when you are planning your wedding to Billy Bob, she might all of a sudden start hating Billy Bob. And I'm not joking, okay? She might just hate him for no reason. And you're gonna be like, what the heck? We used to go over at grandma's house every single Christmas, and now all of a sudden she hates Billy Bob. When 3 Christmases ago, she was kissing Billy Bob's ass and knitting him sweaters. You have no idea what's gonna happen, okay? Like I said before, like your friends, your family, you know, the people around you, they're their own people. And me specifically, during my experience, like, I was having my wedding in the middle of a pandemic. So, you know, people were going through that whole experience of like not knowing if they were gonna have a job, you know, being trapped sometimes with their spouses or their kids for the first time for a long time. There were a lot of different things that were going on that could be stressing to an individual. I remember early on in my wedding planning process, and if this girl's watching it, I'm sorry, you're gonna get, I'm not name dropping you, but it's just what happened. Early on in the wedding planning process, I literally lost one of my really good friends. And I think, honestly, it was one of those friendships that like, it was overdue. We just argued a shit ton, like, and we argued all the time, but we always just like came back together and became friends again. But when I got married and I was planning this wedding, it didn't bounce back. Like the rubber band snapped. I think I was already going through so much with the wedding. And then that was her personal response to me getting married. And you know, I didn't enjoy that response, of course, but that doesn't mean that she's not entitled to feeling that way. And you know, she's able to be her own person. I mean, she is her own person. And we had a lot of emotional projection. A lot of people who were not in the best places in their relationship, they were acting ass. Like, people were just doing some wild shit. And I was like, why are you doing this? Like, we're literally friends with you and you're being an asshole. So I had multiple instances where like, I was like hanging out with friends and stuff like that. And friends in relationships, by the way. So friends that you should not have to protect yourself or your spouse from. Like, it should be a safe place. Like, honestly, we should be going on, honestly, some of us were going on couple dates together. So it never crossed my mind that this would be happening. But hold on. There were multiple instances where like, literally I would take a kill somewhere to hang out with my friends. Friends and relationships, remember, that's an important detail of this conversation. Friends and relationships. And we would all be sitting there all together, right? And these people are literally, obviously, flirting with a kill in front of me. And it wasn't like one of those things where you should be like, oh, Asia, you should be afraid of a kill flirting with them back. This man wasn't paying any freaking attention to them. He was literally looking off in the distance, or I think once we were eating sushi, he was just eating sushi and this girl was just flipping her hair in his face and he wasn't even paying any attention, just oblivious to life. And I'm like, she's clearly trying to give you a blowjob under the table, but okay. But yeah, so like there was just some really weird shit happening. Like, and then this girl was in a relationship. So it's like, what are you doing? So I don't know. People were just acting an ass. Like, so that couple specifically, we just had to stop hanging out with them because it's like, I just don't have time for this shit. Like, we were already going through a global pandemic. The last thing I need is to be fighting you because you don't know how to control all your hair flips and biting of your lips and pushing out of your tits. I just don't have time for that shit. And I just want to go ahead and say it right now that even though I'm like telling you guys all this in a very energetic way, none of this, I allowed none of this to ruin my big day, because really, we can just cut them off and move on with our lives, you know? The world would not end without one girl pushing out her tits, you know? So these just need to dry a little bit and then I will edit them a little. Okay, so what's super duper funny is whenever I was watching videos and like what to expect when you are wedding planning, I never actually saw anything about all the weird stuff that happens when you are planning a wedding. It's always like, oh, I didn't expect flowers to cost that much. Okay, it's like whatever, we get it. Flowers are stupid expensive, we get it. But like all the other weird social experiment type shit, and I love a nice psychoanalyzing of a person. So anyway, I was on Reddit and I actually found that this is really normal, that people just act insanely around wedding times. And it's like, really? Then why is no one on YouTube talking about it? Because if I can find 45 pages of Reddit thing on a Reddit thread, then why isn't it on YouTube? And well, sweetie, I'm here for you, and I'm here and I want to hear your stories down below, because I know I'm not the only one, because Reddit told me I'm not. Ooh, I'm sweaty. Well, you know, we're just gonna keep that in because real people get sweaty nights. All right, and then the last thing that I'm going to say about this little topic here is to 100% look for emotional support from areas that you just are not expecting. There were so many people in my life that like shocked me by how they just kind of like came out of nowhere, and they were just really supportive emotionally, financially, whatever it was. And it was, I don't know, I just really appreciated all of that. I will say that one of the most unexpected things from my wedding was the stinking price of alcohol. the price of alcohol is just ridiculous because they wouldn't let me bring in my own alcohol. So even if I wanted to bring in some alcohol from Sam's for cheap, I was not allowed to, and they had to charge me a crap ton of money. And I'm just not even gonna talk about the money because I've moved on emotionally from that price tag. So this is the final makeup look. Ooh, we are serving cranberry jelly. That's as good as I get. Cinnamon bun. I don't know. I tried. Okay, I couldn't come up with anything off the bat. But yeah, so this is my final makeup look. Overall, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe down below. Also, please share your stories. I want to know if my experience getting married was just a little bit of a weird social experiment, or maybe I'm just such an introvert that I just sit around staring at people, being nosy, being a curious cat in the words of Bailey Syrian. But yeah, so I just thought it was so interesting how everybody reacted in their own unique and special way. Before I got married, I did not understand the show Bridezillas at all, and I used to be like, why are these girls crying? Why are they having breakdowns? Why are they throwing things? And then I got married and I was like, oh. But yeah, so, you know, just make sure to keep a level head, stay kind, you know, say nice words of affirmations in the morning just to give you some positive energy if you're not gonna get any other positive energy throughout the day. And I will see you guys next time. Peace.